Hey, welcome to part 4 of our game character tutorial. So in our last video we added a like a tech suit that fits over our character, and in this video what I would like to do is pull up some references. I want to add some folds that actually make it look like he is wearing like a tight suit. And for that, have some references from a website that I recently found that I really like. I strongly encourage you to guys check it out. It's 3dscanstore.com, and it has a lot of really awesome references in addition to models that you can purchase for references, or if you just want to use images, it's an excellent source as well. So I just took a couple of these screenshots, and in this reference the person that has been scanned actually looks like he's wearing a very similar suit to what I have, and it's a great place to get ideas of how some of the folds might appear in something like this, right? And then of course here as well you can see the front crotch area, and then in the back you can see how the foldings are. And so let's see if we can maybe mimic it or something similar. And what I'm going to use for this is this brush that I like to use, a cloth brush. And for if you guys want to get the same brush, you can get that on the ArtStation marketplace. Let me show you where I got mine from. Alright, so this is where I got mine from this person, Sveto Jargov, and it's a free brush. If you simply look up cloth, wrinkles, and folds brush and set the price to free, you should see this come up, and that's what I'm going to be using right now. Alright, once you load the brush in, I'm going to pull up my references and see if I can add some folding. So I'm going to make sure my X is on my active symmetry. Let's go ahead and zoom in, make my brush kind of small, and I do want to use my tablet for this for pressure sensitivity. And let's see if we can add some folds. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that I did make sure that I did the lines with the Damien standard first. And the reason for that is because now, as I'm going to add the folds, the lines will kind of follow and look like, you know, they're part of the material. Whereas if you added the folds first and then tried to do the detail in the lines, that's definitely would probably not be the right order. That's just my own personal preference, and it just makes more sense, right? So again, I mentioned this in my last video. If you start seeing any kind of issues with the quality of the lines, you can of course increase or subdivide the model. Just press Ctrl D. So in my case, I am at 3.2 million. If I subdivided one more time, you can see that it does get much smoother, but then, you know, I'm up here at 13 million, and maybe that's a little much, but I'm actually gonna go ahead and leave it here because it's a little bit smoother. And again, I'm gonna look at the front. I'm gonna pull this over here. So let's look at the front of this example or reference and see if we can kind of mimic something very similar. So maybe there's some folding that is happening right there, and then maybe we can also change the size as well. Actually, I'm not gonna be zooming in on each section, so I'm just gonna leave it here and see where else it would make sense. Of course, it would make sense to add some by the armpits as well. Now with this folding brush, it's really neat. You can, of course, just simply use it as an add, or if you hold on the Alt key, you can also add additional lines that will actually go inside, right? So you have the brush will be subtracting instead of adding. So keep that in mind. You can actually create nice detail that way as well. So let's go ahead and do the same thing, maybe by his elbow here. I'm gonna press Alt and go between pressing Alt and releasing it, right? So you can create some nice results. And this just trying to make it look like it's actually a suit instead of just a body, right? So let's go ahead and look at the knees. There's some examples right there. Maybe add some foldings here. Now when you're doing the knees or the legs, I know it's very easy to leave the active symmetry on, but I strongly advise to maybe not do that, and especially if we already looked at the UVs when we did the base mesh, we know that these legs have their own UV space. So if we wanted to create folds that are unique to each leg, we can actually take advantage of the fact that these UVs are separate and not overlapped, or not, you know, they're not stacked. So I'm going to turn off my X symmetry and just let's see if we can create kind of custom foldings for our legs. I'm going to go ahead and do some here. And when you zoom out, you can see that your eye does catch the fact that this is different, right? So maybe it just looks a little more interesting. This is, I'm not sure if I need any folds here because this is kind of like the shoe part, but maybe just a little bit. Yeah, I'll do the same thing on this side. Just a couple random lines to let you know that this is actually some sort of cloth. Do one here. All right, let's check out the back. I'm going to do the same thing back here. Just add just a few folds. That sort of makes sense. Maybe there's some bunching up here. Alright, so we could also see in the reference that usually on the bottom where there's some bunching up. Now usually when I do the crotch area or the butt, I usually do add symmetry on. It's I guess I'm a little bit lazy, and to me it makes sense that the folds are semi-symmetrical. For some reason it does feel like it makes sense here. I'm going to change my intensity, maybe change the size of the brush a little bit, and just add maybe a couple bigger ones. Alright, we can do some right above the butt, so maybe like right where the waist is. Let's just maybe add a few here. I'm going to turn off my X symmetry now and just maybe add a couple here. I'm not overdoing it, I'm just doing just enough where it looks interesting, and you could tell that in some areas it's been bunched up, right? So for this, I'm going to leave X symmetry on and just do the same thing kind of in this area. One neat trick, if you do something and you wanted to go over it one more time, you could just press 1. Yeah, so if you make a stroke and then you press 1 without changing the position of your camera, it will duplicate itself right over itself, right? So you can actually use it to make something with different intensity, even though your initial stroke was kind of light. That's a really cool trick. For the back of his neck, I think I'm going to leave this. Maybe there's some bunching up here. Let's go ahead and turn off our symmetry and just add maybe a little bit here. Alright, so again, I did it just a little bit, but just enough to show that this is indeed a suit, right? Alright, very nice. The other thing that I would like to do is, let's go ahead and add some cool hair to this guy. And for the hair, I actually would like to use something very stylized and low poly, right? Because this is going to be a relatively low poly character. Let's go ahead and get rid of our pure wrap. I don't need this anymore. And for my hair, let me show you the brush that I'm going to be using. Alright, so I'm going to be using this brush here by Mark Blumen. And it's a free brush, and it's called IMM Cartoon Brush. If you click on it, you can see what it looks like. You can, of course, download it by typing in IMM Cartoon Hairbrush for ZBrush. And I bet if you type in blue man, you would pull up this brush as well. Alright, so feel free to download it and just follow along. Alright, so I'm going to go to my tools here, my brushes, and I'm going to select my IMM hairbrush, and let's see if we can create some cool hair for our character. I'm going to dial this down to maybe 5. And I am looking to create something probably along the lines of like a mohawk. That's kind of my vision. Again, I don't have a reference for this, so I'm just kind of visualizing in my mind, but I think it would kind of make sense for this character to make something like mohawk. Let's just see what that looks like. So my brush is actually not cooperating, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to append a sphere. I'm going to select my sphere, and I'm going to press F. I am going to size this down, or of course you can use the scale to size this down, and position it right where the head would be. We can also turn on the transparent button to see. Let's go ahead and scale this and maybe try to match kind of the oval shape on top. And I'm going to use this as my anchor for my hair. So I'm going to put it here. Let's go ahead and scale it this way. All right. I'm going to grab my brush. All right, I'm going to snap into my side view and just draw a line. And yeah, this was what I was kind of envisioning, something along these lines. So let's go ahead, and I'm not going to worry about this being in the center yet because I can move this around in a minute. So I'm going to click on the sphere and go ahead and draw another one. Click on the sphere again and just keep drawing more. Now I can change the shape by using the move tool, so I'm not really worried about the shape or positioning. I'm just kind of getting the base shapes in first. And again, just trying to maintain it kind of low poly. Let's see what that looks like. I think this is kind of interesting. I am going to press Control and drag to get rid of my mask. And what I'd like to do now is get rid of this sphere, right? So to get rid of the sphere, I'm going to press Control, Shift, and click, and then do Control, Shift, and click again to hide the sphere. And I'm going to click on Delete Hidden button, which is located in the it's in the geometry, right? So if you go to geometry, you will see under modify topology, there's a button called Delete Hidden. So I just have it on my UI. So I'm going to say Delete Hidden, and now I'm just left with kind of the base for my hair. Now, if you wanted to see this more high res, I'm actually liking the resolution. If you turn on your Shift F, if you draw your polyframe on, you could see the topology. It's actually perfect for a game model, right? So this makes a lot of sense. But for maybe for sculpting, if you wanted to, you could go to geometry and turn on our dynamic with the maybe smooth subdivision to level 2, and maybe that will give us a nicer preview, especially if you bring this into like Maya and apply soft edges. This is probably closer to what it would actually look like. Alright, so another thing I would like to do is I'm going to turn on my polyframe on, but then I'm going to do auto group, and auto group is located in the poly groups, right? So that would be under poly groups. Let's see, poly groups right there, and this is the outer groups button. So I'm going to click mine, and you can see how it kind of grouped each piece individually to a separate poly group. And this is going to allow me to grab my move tool, make it kind of large, and then do a mask by poly groups. I'm going to set mine to 100, and this button is located, so that's located under brush, auto masking. So if you go to brush and scroll down to auto masking, you can see it's right there, mask by poly group. So I just have that on my UI. And now what I can do is I can grab the bottoms of my hair and just kind of pull them in. And it's nice because I'm doing it by poly groups. It's only grabbing one guy at a time, right? So right now I would like to center this, so I'm going to grab my move tool and let's go ahead and center this. So I think that looks pretty cool. We can let's go back to draw mode, and I'm gonna actually grab my inflate brush, and let's see if we what it would look like if we inflate some of these, so maybe there's not so much spacing. On the bottom, if you hold on the Control Shift, you can actually isolate some of the elements if you needed to. If not, you should be able to just kind of hover over it and make it puffier if you needed to. I'm going to go back to my Move tool and see if I can reshape it even more. We can also grab our Move tool, make it kind of large. We can turn off Mask by Polygroups and use it to kind of better shape. Maybe we want to add some movement to the base. I think that would actually look really cool. It feels a little more organic. Another trick you could do is if you go to brushes, you can get something like the spiral, and if you make it sort of large, you can make really crazy designs that way. If you hold down the Alt key, it will go the other into the other direction, and then if you don't, it's just gonna go this way. So keep that in mind. A cool way to add some motion. You can use this. This is a good tool to add to like a cape as well. I'm not really sure if I like that or not. I kind of do. I think that's really interesting. It feels to me a little bit like these are a little bit short, so maybe let's go ahead and make them a little longer. Just the center ones. All right, so I'm happy with this. I think this looks really nice. Let's go ahead and turn off our poly frame and take a look. One thing I'm noticing is that I'm not liking the position of this. I would like to have it maybe a little more higher up a little bit. Another thing we could do is maybe add some detail here on the sides, right? So we can do that maybe here as well. Let's see if we can go to our character. I'm gonna make sure my hair layer's on. And let's go ahead and grab our standard brush. And I'm going to reset this the way it was. And I'm gonna use my standard brush and see if I can hold on the Control key. Yeah, let's go ahead and mask out maybe a cool kind of a pattern on the side of his head. So I'm gonna press X to make sure that I'm doing this on both sides. And what I would like to do is let's add some detail that maybe kind of goes along with the theme of him being the lightning guy. So maybe if you hold on the Control key, obviously it will draw the mask, and then if you hold on the Control and Alt key, you can go back and sharpen parts of the mask so it looks a little cleaner, right? A little more interesting. All right, and we can modify this as well. So I'm thinking about having 2 lines just for fun. Let's go ahead and make another one maybe here. So I'm going to make my kind of a thick shape first. And this might be the limitation of my the tools I'm using. If you have a nicer tablet, there's probably a better way of doing it, but I usually tend to make the thicker line first and then just kind of clean it up. But I know that if you have a nice Wacom tablet, you probably don't need to do this step. You can probably draw it right from the beginning the proper way. So this is also a cool trick if you're just using the mouse and you don't have a tablet. Keep in mind you can make really thick shapes, and then using the Alt key you can go back and kind of clean them up and make them a little more thinner. So just a cool little trick. All right, so I think I can work with this. Let's take a look at the other side and make sure it's on both sides, which it is. I'm gonna go to my subtool and then scroll down to where it says extract. And what I would like to do is I'm gonna leave my thickness at 0.02, which is by default. And let's go ahead and click extract and see what that looks like. That's a little bit too much thickness for me. I'm going to switch this. Let's see what 0.1 looks like. It's hard to tell. I'm gonna see it. It's still a little bit too much. Let's go ahead and do at least on my end, 0.05. See, I think I kind of like this. I think this seems like a good thickness for my scale. I'm gonna say accept. As soon as I press accept, you can see that a new layer was created, and now this layer is containing these 2 pieces on it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control and drag to deselect these pieces, and I'm going to jump into geometry and do a Z remesher. And let's just see what that looks like. I'm going to set this to 1. I do need it kind of low poly. And I am going to turn off adapt button, and let's go ahead and just do a Z remesher. I need to I'm going to turn on the polyframe so I can see what's happening. And I would like to, let's do half and do it one more time. Okay, that's a little better. And let's just see what even less than that looks like. So you can see it's actually kind of cleaning it up, right? Because it's removing a lot of the edges, and in some way it almost makes it more clean and polished looking. And keep in mind, if we take something like this and apply soft edges in Maya, that will actually be pretty much perfect topology for a game character. The only thing we would have to do in Maya, which we could do here as well, is just remove the polygons on the bottom, right? Because that's extra poly that we don't need. But this is what we have so far. I'm liking this. I think this is kind of fun. Let's go ahead and stop here, and in our next video I think it'll be fun to give him some kind of a cool cape or a trench coat, or maybe a cape would make more sense. Yeah, let's give him a cape in our next video. So thanks for watching. I hope you are learning cool stuff, and I will see you in the next video.